We're right here about 30 yards from the green, and you have to have the right setup so that you can stop the ball or run the ball. But your setup will determine if it stops or if it runs. Most people get into trouble chipping poorly because their arms move independent of their body. To really chip well, you want the club to move the same speed as the body. You don't want the hands moving independent. More amateurs move their hands and throw their hands and thrust their hands instead of letting the club do the work and let the body and the club head move the same speed. Because people that really chip well, their club moves on an arc with their body. People that chip poorly, their hands are moving independent of their body, and a lot of that's setup. So you start by making sure that you're open to your target line so that you're like throwing a ball underhanded. You're like pitching a ball underhanded. Now, the shorter the shot, the less pivot and the less movement you'll have to make with your body on the backswing. 30 yards, if you were going to throw a ball, you'd have to make a little pivot. But basically, because you're open, your weight will stay centered and more to the left. So I like to feel like I'm throwing a ball, and that's how I practice. I set my face on the target, like railroad tracks aiming to my target. A lot of people set it open. I was even with, like Rotella, he sets the face open a little bit, and he works the face to the left, but he uses his body well. So it's very common for people to aim right and swing left. But I like aiming my face at the target, and if this is my normal standard of setting the club, if I set up that way, I'm going to hit more of a pitch and run, because what happens is the bottom of the club catches, it'll slow up and it'll make the club do this, and the ball will tend to run. And that's very effective. But if you want it to stop, you're going to come in there with the back of the club, not the leading edge. So you're going to hit with this part first. This part hits first to keep the club from doing this and de-lofting the club. If you want it to run, it'll come in there and go that way. If you want it to stop, it comes with the back of the club first. So that's basically the difference. And so the first one, I'll set the club more standardly with my hands in front, and I'll set up slightly open. I don't have to have a big stance because I don't need my hip turn to create power. So then I just set and I pivot through. That ball will check a little bit.
Right there.
And it'll run a little bit like that, you know? If you need it to stop, I mean really bounce and stop, one bounce and stop. I tend to aim my face at the target still, and I set the loft this way. With my handle, it looks like from your angle, the club head handle is behind the ball. What most amateurs do, which is really unfortunate, is they try to set up. They'll set up with their hands in front of the ball, and then they try to scoop and put loft on it this way throughout their swing. That's kind of like trying to build an airplane and fly it at the same time. It just doesn't work. So what you're trying to accomplish to make the ball stop is you're trying to actually lose compression on the ball. The club comes down, the ball rides up the face like this. That's actually what creates the spin. It's like a ping pong ball sliding across a paddle. And that's a very effective way to stop that ball. So I just set up and I go and swing it, and that ball will sit and stop. Actually pull back a little bit.
It sure did.
But the most important thing when you're trying to stop that ball, the conditions really do determine how it's going to stop or pull back. But the most important thing is to make sure that you're hitting with the face exposed and not flipping and turning over. Most people get into trouble because they're releasing the club head like that with their chips, either through a faulty grip, either through, handsing it somehow or flipping it with the hands. You really want the hand to just go straight through with the club face, not flipping over. You don't want any of the flip over. And
just
that
like a
makes
toss, though, like you were saying. You don't toss
really,
like that, you toss straight away.
That's right. And so the shorter the shot, the less flip over that you have.
Can you explain the danger of trying to hit the stop shot where you've got hitting the lower part of the club off of a tight lie or a dry lie, let's say? That's going to get a little more bounce?
The reason you would want to hit, I would say the hardest shot in golf is to hit with the leading edge. Mm-hmm. And especially off a sandy lie or a tight lie or a caliche like they have in Texas or whatever. You have to be steady, and you can't extend a lot. And you got to keep it, your center real steady. And generally people will play the ball further back in their stance, and then they'll make sure that they catch the ball first and more of on a descending blow. Because if you start, you know, trying to lift up or try to hit level with it, it's way too difficult to catch the ball perfectly. So a lot of people will take more loft maybe even take that L wedge and hood it down, like play it back like this, and then just go ahead and pitch it like that.
Well, only secret, yeah, the only secret on this is for people, you know, my teacher, Paul, had talked to me a long time ago about this, is when I get shots like this is I actually try and weaken my grip. So a normal full shot, I'd have a grip like this, and when I get a little shorter shot where I've got to get some elevation, I don't go to where neutral or normal for most players are, but I go much weaker. And it helps me get the club swinging through the ball. With a stronger grip, I have the tendency to knife it and rely all on spin. And when I weaken my grip, for instance, maybe at Augusto or TPC where you've got to get some balls up in the air, I'm able to get the club under the ball, you know, like that and get some elevation on it. So that's kind of the only, you know, only real thing I can tell anyone is if you do have a strong grip, try to weaken it on these shots to see if you can get a little more feel. You can still spin the ball, but technique, same as any shot, you know. If you go short backswing and fall through, you want to keep your body steady. And if you're a little longer and lazier like I am, you still want to keep your body steady. And it's more from maybe, as they say, 3 o'clock to 9 o'clock. You don't ever really want to go way back and stop, and you don't ever want to go here and flip at it.
Far back, not too much power, it's smooth. Watch how rhythmic this is. Perfect, perfect. That's close enough we can make the next putt. All right, Deborah. Now, what I would like to do is have you set up and give us a swing in slow motion. I want you to see the details of the finesse wedge swing. I want you to look at the mechanics of what's happening here. Deborah, set up now. The ball's in the middle of your stance, and she's going to take what I call a synchronized takeaway. Watch her chest and her waist. Her hips and shoulders turn together in synchronization. Okay, now hold it right there. If I had a pointer sticking out of her belt buckle, it would be right here. Out of her chest, it would be right here. Her body has turned away, upper body and lower body synchronized together. The club has come to about a vertical position. It should be somewhere in this position over here. And there's no coil. Her shoulders are not turned against her hips. Deborah, give me a coil here. Okay, now that's a power swing. You see, she's probably stretching in her back somewhere here. She's generated extra power. Don't do that. Let's go back to the finesse swing. Right here, there's no coil at all. From this position, to hit a nice smooth finesse shot with a synchronized swing, she turns in slow motion everything through together. There we go. Hips, shoulders, perfect, to a full finish. Now look at this finish. Look at where her weight is. Her balance is on her left foot. She's not outside her left foot, she's on it. And particularly, her right foot has come up. It's just a balance point, and her right knee has kind of chased the ball. It's going right down the line the way it should go. Now, Deborah.
How's that, Dave?